And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Big Blue Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Volz, a junior at SUNY Fredonia. A few things to talk about today. Fredonia sports, it's kind of getting to be the weird lull period of where fall sports are coming to an end and winter sports are just starting to get going, but they haven't really fully gotten there yet. But fall sports are coming to a close just about. The men's soccer team, we'll start with them. They are 7-8-2. They play their last home game of the season on Saturday, October 19th, a 3-1 win over Potsdam in a SUNYAC game. They have two more games left on the regular season schedule. They're at Morrisville today. Actually, that game just getting started right about now, should be at Morrisville, and then they finish up the regular season at Oneonta on Saturday. That game starts at 11 a.m. SUNYAC championships start next week, Saturday, November 2nd, the first day for those. The women's soccer team above 500. They're 8-7 on the season. A 2-0 shutout victory at Potsdam on Saturday. They've got two more home games left. They are home right now against SUNY Morrisville. That game getting started, right about now. And then they are home for one more on Saturday at 1 p.m. They face Oneonta. And the men's and women's soccer schedules go kind of hand in hand. The women's soccer team deviates just a little bit at the end of the season. Next week, Tuesday, they have a road game, a non-conference road game at Chatham, which is down in Pittsburgh. And that ends their regular season. But the SUNYAC championships again start next Saturday, November 2nd. Volleyball also winding down towards a close, and it's another team that, even though the record jumps off the page, they're 9-14. The record doesn't necessarily jump off the page. Their winning percentage below 400, but their overall wins, the last two seasons, the 2022 and 23 seasons, they combined to win 9 games, 4 in 2022, 5 last year, and they've won 9 in this season alone. They're 9-14. They have lost back-to-back, both by scores of 3-0, following a pretty strong stretch. But they are back at home this weekend for 2 games. They're home Friday night at 6 p.m. against Cortland, and then Saturday their final SUNYAC home game of the regular season. They host Morrisville at 1 p.m. on Saturday. They're on the road next weekend. Their SUNYAC championships don't start until a little bit later. Their championships don't start until Tuesday, November 12th, because they got a few other games between now and then. Friday, November 1st, they're at Oswego. Saturday, November 2nd, they are at Canton. The Oswego game, a 6 p.m. start. Canton, a 1 p.m. Then they have 2 non-conference matchups in the second weekend in November. They are at Keuka on Friday, November 8th at 6 p.m. They started the season at Keuka, lost 3-0. And then they finish out the regular season at home against Hilbert on Saturday, November 9th at 1 p.m. And then again, the SUNYAC Championship starting on Tuesday, November 12th. Cross country has finished up their regular season. They were at Geneseo this past Saturday. Both the men's and women's teams were. They have a week off this week, and then the SUNYAC Championships, which will be hosted by Oswego, will start at 11 a.m. on Saturday, November 2nd. And then the regional championships, I've talked about this a couple of times on the show, the regional championships, which is like the next step past the SUNYACs, those are being hosted by Fredonia this year. That is at noon on Saturday, November 16th. So we'll see who makes it from there. And this is the first time that Fredonia has hosted the regional cross-country championships in quite some time. The women's race will start at 11, and the men's race will start at 12. It is the Niagara region for Division III. And I think, and I've mentioned this a couple of times on the show, that the fact that they are hosting those championships really speaks to the growth of the program, right? I mean, this was a cross-country program. We talked about the Cara Hall Invitational, a few years ago. Cara Hall, for some backstory, Cara Hall she ran cross-country, and I can't remember if she ran track or not for Fredonia. And in 2017, after she had graduated from Fredonia, Cara was out for a run back in her hometown, and she was hit by a car and killed. And every year in her honor, Fredonia runs a cross-country meet that's the Cara Hall Memorial Invitational. And that last handful of years, the first handful of years that they've run it, it's been a much smaller invitational. You know, they've only had about maybe 3 or 4 other teams at most that had come for it. They had, last year, I want to say they had about 9 teams that came, I think. And then this year they had, I want to say, 14. So the growth of the program and the growth of this invitational has just really continued to make not only the cross-country program, but Fredonia athletics as a whole stronger. And it's a positive sign for your entire department when you're able to host these sort of championships and you're able to be recognized in your area as a course and a program that, you know, people want to emulate and people want to participate in. So again, that November 16th, the Niagara Regional Championships for Division III men's and women's cross country will be held right here at Fredonia. Women's tennis, their season has been over for a little bit. The tennis season is a little bit different because they play most of it's only women's tennis. Fredonia does not have a varsity men's tennis team. So the women's tennis team plays the majority of their schedule in September and October. So when their September meet or when their October matches are done, they don't have the SUNYAC championships in the fall. Those are in the spring. Those are April 25th and 26th. They'll be hosted by Cortland this year. So they have their fall season. And then they do play a couple of sort of like warm-up matches for the SUNYAC championships in the spring. So tennis is a much different season collegiately than most others. Their overall record was 5-7, which again, it's similar to volleyball. It doesn't necessarily jump off the page, but it's considering the fact that the women's tennis team had a lengthy losing streak that spanned about 2.5 years from April of 2021 to September of last year. It's the tennis team, they've shown remarkable signs of improvement. They only won, they did win 2 matches last year, but they won 5 this year. And the majority of their losses were close. I mean, they played a good Plattsburgh team. They played them close, lost 4-3. They had earlier in September, they lost to Penn State Barron 4-3. So it's a matter, this tennis team has really shown some positive strides as they look to build towards the future. Moving on towards winter sports, a couple of teams have started. The men's and women's swim and dive teams started a couple of weeks ago. The men's team is 0-2. Of course, we talked about last year. They have a very small roster. And the women's team does too. And the men's team, the first match of the first meet of the year on Saturday, October 12th, they were home against Pitt Bradford. A close meet, ended up losing 91-81. And then last weekend at Hobart and William Smith up near Buffalo, a 132-64 loss. They're back in action. They have a meet this Saturday on October 26th at Allegheny College. It's Allegheny, Baldwin Wallace, and Fredonia that will be competing there. The Blue Devil Invite will be in November. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, November 22nd through the 24th. It's that weekend before we all go home for our Thanksgiving break, because Thanksgiving is later this year. So they're at home the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. The women's swim and dive team, they looked pretty impressive in their first meet against Pitt Bradford. They took home a 95-61 win. And then against William Smith last weekend, 199-33, a really tough loss in that. They are, along with the men's team, at Allegheny this Saturday to face Allegheny and Baldwin Wallace. And again, November 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Blue Devil Invite, which will be hosted by both the men's and women's teams. Moving on. I'm exhausted. I'm so tired today, and I don't know why. It's like, you ever have those days where you're just like in a complete mental fog? That's me today for whatever reason. It's probably because I haven't eaten a meal since breakfast at like 9:30 this morning. Wednesdays are my days. I joke with everyone that I know. Wednesdays are my days that like I genuinely wonder if I'm going to eat 3 meals a day, and usually that answer is no, because I do a lot of things. I mean, later tonight you can see me, anyone, to promote the other campus medias just a little bit for a quick second. You can see me on News 11. I am anchoring at 7:30 tonight live on WNYF's YouTube page. Also, you can pick up a new copy of The Leader, which was just printed. Issue 3 of the fall semester was printed yesterday. There's a few really good articles. I wrote an article in that it was a column article about just the fear of, being a fan in a small town sports market and losing your team. I remember that was a very real fear back, you think back to 10 years ago when Ralph Wilson passed away and the Bills were playing one game a year up in Toronto, and there was very real, genuine fear that, were the Bills going to permanently move to Toronto or somewhere else? There was the whole Bon Jovi was going to buy the Bills with his Toronto investor buddies, and they were going to move him to Canada, and, everyone was very anti that. And Donald Trump was going to buy the Bills, and he was going to, I don't know. If Trump was going to buy the Bills, he was probably moving him to Los Angeles, would have been my guess. But the Pagulas bought the Bills, and so they're still in Buffalo, and we don't have to worry about losing them, at least not in the imminent future, right? So I wrote kind of because seeing the fan reactions to like the Oakland A's moving to Vegas, which is just a disaster in its own right, or the Arizona Coyotes moving to Utah, it breaks my heart as a fan of a small market team. It breaks my heart. I genuinely don't know what I would do if the Bills or Sabres ever left Buffalo. I don't know what I would do. It would be it would be gut-wrenching. I wouldn't be able to take it, So I think that, watching some of these teams relocate, it's so difficult to see, and I get why teams move. You want better economic opportunities or whatever, but it's so difficult to see that happen, and you just you feel for the fans of the hometown teams, and you hope that one day maybe they can get their teams back. But anyways, continuing with Fredonia sports, hockey is getting closer to starting. They actually have a scrimmage at home against Buff State on Saturday. They are at home for real next weekend, November 1st and 2nd, against Trine. And then they've got a while after that. After that, November 1st and 2nd, they're not home again until we are home for our Thanksgiving break on Tuesday, November 26th. They have a home game against Chatham. And then after that, it's the not homecoming weekend, but December 6th and 7th, they play Plattsburgh on Friday night and Potsdam on Saturday. And a lot of the alums, including many members of the 1994 and 95 Fredonia hockey teams that reached the Division III semifinals. They went to the Final Four in 1994 and went to the national championship game in 1995. Many of them will be back in town for that, and for more context on that when we get to it, I wrote an article last year as well. I wrote 2 articles in The Leader last year about just looking back on those mid-90s teams and the success they had, and where all of those guys are now, that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, definitely make sure to pick up a copy of The Leader. That was in one of the last issues of last semester. You can also find that on Fredonia's website, which is fredonialeader.org. Okay, I'm going to take a short break, and then when I come back, I'm going to talk about the World Series as the matchup is set between the Yankees and the Dodgers. We'll talk Sabres later on, a big win over the Dallas Stars last night, and finish out the show talking about the Bills recapping Sunday's win over the Tennessee Titans and previewing this upcoming Sunday's matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. So with that, thank you for tuning in to Big Blue Sports Podcast this afternoon. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. This is WCVF 88.9, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
smile. Oh, while you're living in the state of denial, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. You get an inch while they're taking a mile. You can't erase what we used to describe. Words carry weight, but they don't have a mind of their own. Of their own. It's a bad, bad, bad place to be. Bad, bad, bad memory. Who gets to choose when and won't? There's a real good reason I don't. You started feeling out of sync with the light, but try to speak it and you're out on exile. Why follow reason when you follow denial? Then you float down you go, while everybody's busy finding the side. Further apart but falling further in line. We're going broke while they're making it down on our lives, all our lives. Because friend, knows who's winning the most? Who set the stage and who holds the road? Who even cares if what matters the most? Who set the game and clearing the smoke? You started living into self for a while. You started feeling like a fish on the line. You got the tempo, but you don't get the time, and you won't. No, you won't. So pack up your suitcase, the round is trying to go before the sun goes down.
Hey, I'm Daniel Nunnally. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and you're listening to 88.9 WCVF, The Voice.
It's gonna put me in the ground.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports Podcast. Are you looking to get a head start on your future career? On November 6th from noon to 3 p.m., students, alumni, and community members are welcome to attend the Western New York Career and Internship Fair at the Buffalo Marriott Hotel. This is an opportunity to network with employers regarding internships, jobs, career trends, industry insights, and more. For more information, go to www.fredonia.edu/CDO. So the Major League Baseball playoffs carry on. The World Series matchup is set. It will be a clash between the Yankees and the Dodgers. Game 1 on Friday night at 8:08 p.m. First pitch start time on Fox. All World Series games will start at 8:08 p.m. on Fox. And a lot of people are not thrilled with the World Series matchup, the fact that it is the Yankees against the Dodgers. I mean, the two teams you think of when you think of teams spending a ton of money to buy a championship, those two teams are the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. So a lot of baseball fans are not exactly thrilled. But how did both of these teams get here? So both teams were the top seed in their respective leagues, so they got a bye in the wild card round to the division series. The Yankees in the ALDS defeated the Kansas City Royals in a 4-game series, and then the ALCS took down the Cleveland Guardians in 5. So the Yankees have only lost 2 games so far this postseason, a 3-1 series win over the Royals in the ALDS and 4-1 over Cleveland in the ALCS. The Dodgers suffered a little bit of a scare in the NLDS against the wild card Padres. It took them all 5 in the best-of-5 series to come away with the series win. And the Dodgers matched up against the red-hot New York Mets in the NLCS, took down the Mets in 6 to advance to the Fall Classic. So Yankees versus Dodgers, game 1 at Dodger Stadium at 8:08 p.m. on Fox on Friday night. My prediction for the World Series was not really too close. I said that I don't trust either the Yankees or the Dodgers to not blow it in the postseason, and I was kind of wrong. I really felt that things were kind of too good to be true with both of these teams, and I thought that there was too much of an opportunity there for either one of them to slip. Now, they, I guess, have both proven me wrong, and it's going to be an interesting World Series to watch. A lot of people are not too happy with the fact that it is the Yankees against the Dodgers. Major League Baseball, I can imagine, is probably very happy because you think about it, the Yankees and the Dodgers are the two most profitable teams, basically, and they have the biggest stars. I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani for the Dodgers, of course, and then the Yankees, you have, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, and that doesn't even count guys like Giancarlo Stanton or Jazz Chisholm or Garrett Cole, on the mound for them. These two teams match up pretty well. My prediction in the World Series, I originally said the Yankees were going to lose in the ALCS. I did not think that they would be able to hold it together long enough. They have, and they've been very good. My prediction, I think this is a series that goes, if not the distance, pretty far. I would not be surprised to see this series go 7 games. I think this is going to be a very interesting series to watch. I am going to pick the Yankees to win it. I think it could easily go to the Dodgers, but I'm going to pick the Yankees to take the win. So game 1 of the series in LA on Friday, game 2 on Saturday. Again, all these start times are at 8:08 p.m. on Fox. So game 1 in LA on Friday, game 2 in LA on Saturday. Then the two teams have Sunday for a travel day because, they're traveling across the country. Game 3 at Yankee Stadium Monday night next week. Game 4 Tuesday night. Game 5, if necessary, at Yankee Stadium next Wednesday. Then if a Game 6 was needed, which I think it will be, Thursday will be a travel day. Then Friday, November 1st, would be Game 6 at Dodger Stadium. And if a Game 7 happens, it would be at 8:08 p.m. on Fox on Saturday, November 2nd at Dodger Stadium. I would not be surprised to see this series go 7 games. I think this is a really good matchup. Two obviously very, very good baseball teams. But I think the Yankees ultimately do prevail in 7 games and claim their 28th World Series championship. So with that, I'm going to take another short break. When I come back, it's Sabres talk. We'll talk about Buffalo's win over the Dallas Stars last night, as well as what they have to look ahead to for the rest of this season, and some spotlights on a few of their players who have been playing well and a few who have maybe not so well. So thanks for joining me on Big Blue Sports Podcast here on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
Guess the party's almost over. Always hated counting sheep. You promised that you'd love me, at least until you fell asleep. I get lost in all the noises. I get lost most of the time. And I'm rarely asking why. I don't wanna come down. tight. Almost died when you got closer. Stolen breath right from my love. Dancing on your living room floor. I'm useless, but I don't got any more. Tomorrow will be there when you call. We'll be living it all. Do what you want, you got. Facing fears on an unmade bed. I can be an artist, right? Think I made a mess. Watching you get dressed got me saying, I'll forget it, you'll forget it, and I won't lie. Just a minute till it's finished, got me spinning on your time. I'll forget it, you'll forget it, and I won't lie. Just a minute till it's finished, got me spinning on your time. I'll forget it, you'll forget it, and I won't lie. Just a minute till it's finished, got me spinning on your time. I'll forget it, you'll forget it, and I won't lie. Just a minute till it's finished, got me spinning on your time. Dancing on your living floor, I'm useless, but I don't care anymore. No more. Won't be telling you all you never know. Do what you want, we got. Facing fears on an unmade bed. I remember spinning on your bed. Got me spinning back.
Tune in to News at Noon on Mondays and Wednesdays at noon with an additional news segment on High Noon Friday every Friday at noon. News at Noon gives you your local, campus, and international updates, as well as sports and weather. Be sure to tune in.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports Podcast. So we have some reason to celebrate for the Sabres, as after a very, very slow start, Buffalo has won back-to-back, of course, beating the Blackhawks in Chicago on Saturday, and then last night at home against the Dallas Stars. Buffalo looked good. I mean, they were, the Sabres got off to a fairly decent start. I thought the first period was a good, solid back and forth, no score through really the first half of this game. And then at about the 12:30 mark of the second period, Peyton Krebs scores his first of the year assist from Beck Mallenstein and Owen Power, and that was a shot from Power at the point that had been deflected in front. It was up in the air. Peyton Krebs showed some truly remarkable wherewithal on this play, too. As the puck was up in the air, Krebs originally was going to try and bat it out of the air, but he realized that would have been a high stick. So he waited for the puck to drop below the crossbar and then batted it in. Excellent concentration for Krebs to put that goal in the back of the net for his first of the year. Sabres lead 1-0. Just over a minute later, a minute and 23 seconds later, the Sabres, using their speed, Power picks up his second assist of the night, and Jason Zucker, carrying down the wing, finds Ryan McLeod. McLeod showed remarkable speed on this, and really, a conversation needs to be had about Ryan McLeod in a good way. He has been a really, really good player for the Sabres. I was listening to WGR this morning when I was driving onto campus from my townhouse, and they talked about how when the Sabres originally traded Matt Savoy to the Oilers over the summer for Ryan McLeod, I think a lot of people were skeptical of the move at first because they saw Ryan McLeod as a third-line center type of guy, and you're trading Savoy, who's a former 8th overall draft pick and, looks really good, all this sort of stuff. Looks like he could potentially be really good. And, so people were kind of worried, we traded this highly touted prospect in our system for just Ryan McLeod. And so far, Savoy did not make the Oilers roster. He is playing in the AHL. McLeod has really filled in beautifully as a middle six center for the Sabres so far this season. I mean, Ryan McLeod is a very, very fast player. He's got tremendous speed. He's already got 4 goals on the year through the Sabres' first 8 games. And the chemistry that he's built with guys like Jason Zucker and Jordan Greenway, I think the Sabres really have something interesting with a few of their players. I like Zucker and McLeod together. I think they've played well. The Sabres as a whole, and we'll get to it. We'll get to the game recap first. So Sabres lead 2-0 after 2. Into the third period, a beautiful play. Alex Tuck forces a turnover. He feeds Owen Power, and Power he feeds Tage Thompson a beautiful give and go as Tage Thompson feeds Owen Power, and then Power passes right back to Tage for the one-timer. It's the type of generating plays off the rush and using your speed to create offense. That has been so badly lacking with this Sabres team for a handful of years. And they sort of are, at the beginning of this year even, too, it was lacking. But they're sort of starting to find their footing. And I think some of the guys they brought in, like Ryan McLeod, helps with that, right? McLeod is an incredibly fast skater. And for Tage Thompson, Tage last year was not himself. That was very clear to anybody who watched the Sabres. He wasn't right. I mean, he was dealing with a hand injury, and that really impacts, it impacts everything. It impacts your shot. It impacts your physicality. And as a result, I think Tage's numbers struggled, and he just didn't look as strong on the ice. Now you have a healthy Tage Thompson, who that goal was Tage's 5th of the year. He's looked maybe not fully his former self, but if not, pretty darn close. I mean, Tage has looked really, really good so far this season. He's been very impressive to watch. And, I think that regaining sort of his full strengths, you put him on the line with J.J. Peterka and Alex Tuck, and that's been a really, really strong line. They looked very good last night against Dallas, and hopefully that can continue. So Buffalo leads 3-0 until later in the game. Dallas pulls their goaltender, and this is where I started to get a little bit nervous because with the empty net, Thomas Harley scores his first of the year, assist from Matt Duchene and Evgeny Dadonov. Dallas gets on the board. And, all right, fine. Luukkonen lost the shutout. That's too bad because he was really, really strong in this game. But, it's all right. It's okay. And Rob Ray even said that on the Sabres MSG broadcast. He was like, that's okay. You give up one, that's fine. About 2.5 minutes later, the Stars still with an empty net, and Tyler Seguin scores. He gets his 3rd of the year. Dadonov and Maverick Bourque with assists. Now it's 3-2, and you start getting a little bit nervous. The Stars are pressing with an empty net. You get a little bit, I was not feeling great about it. It was making me very, very nervous. But anyways, we move forward later on in the game. Alex Tuck gets a steal with 11 seconds to go. Tuck buries an empty netter, his 3rd of the year. Tage Thompson gets the assist, and the Sabres beat the Stars 4-2. The 3 stars of the game, Owen Power was the first star with 3 assists, and yeah, he absolutely deserved it. Power was really good. Owen Power has been absolutely terrific so far this season. He's looked really, really strong, and the hope for Buffalo is that that's going to continue. I mean, he's been sort of waiting to have that breakout, right? And, it's fine because we've had, obviously, Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin has not been quite as strong so far this year. I mean, he dealt with an injury that he sustained early in the year. Lindy Ruff said that Dahlin is not 100%, but Owen Power has really stepped up into a number 1 defenseman type of role. And if the Sabres can maximize the potential of Dahlin, Byram, Power, and Samuelson even, that's a really good defensive core in front of your goaltenders, whether it be Luukkonen or Levi in net. Luukkonen was the game's 2nd star. He stopped 28 of 30 shots. He was very strong again. And the Sabres didn't necessarily need him to stand on his head. He made a couple of big saves, but They didn't necessarily need him to stand on his head, but he played very well. 28 saves on 30 shots. That's good for a .933 save percentage. You will take that any night. And Peyton Krebs was the third star with 1 goal. I think the fact that Krebs, A, batting the puck in was a phenomenal play, but B, the fact that Peyton Krebs really has started to look stronger, look more confident in his own game, it's a positive sign for Buffalo moving forward. So the Sabres, where they are overall, they're 3-4-1, 5th in the Atlantic, while tied with Boston. Florida is leading the way. Florida at 4-3-1 with 9 points. Then you have a 3-way tie between Tampa Bay, Ottawa, and Toronto, all with 8 points. Tampa Bay and Ottawa at 4-2, Toronto 4-3. Then you have Boston with 7 points. They're 3-3-1. Buffalo's 3-4-1 with 7 points. Then you have Detroit at 3-3 with 6 points. Montreal 2-4-1. They have 5 points. So it's early in the season, but it's interesting to note nobody has jumped out significantly in front in the Atlantic Division. I mean, the Sabres right now are literally 2 points back of the Florida Panthers for the division lead. So, and I know it's early in the season. I know, the Sabres are only 8 games into their season. Some teams are only 6 games into their season. But, for Buffalo, I think that there's the opportunity there to go out and make something happen. They've got a few days off, the Sabres do. They are home again on Saturday. They have a 1 p.m. matchup with the Detroit Red Wings. They will be wearing the red and black. Very excited for that. Alex Tuch is the Sabres points leader with 9. He has 3 goals and 6 assists through 8 games. Alex Tuch has really started to regain himself. You look at the injury report for the Sabres. Zach Benson did not play last night. He was out with an injury. Jordan Greenway was back, as was J.J. Peterka. Those guys both back healthy. Nick Aube-Kubel did return to practice, so the Sabres are getting to be a healthier team, which is obviously a positive sign for them. Both of these teams 3-2 in their last 5. The Sabres technically 3-1-1 in their last 5. So they've played well. They've played better as of late. Even though I thought that, they were better against Chicago on Saturday and should have won by more than 4-2. Later on they did. Early on they did not look very good in that game, despite having a lead. And then last night I thought they looked really, really strong and could have arguably beaten Dallas by more than 4-2. So I think for this Sabres team, one of the things that they talked about, one of the things Rob Ray talked about on the broadcast last night was, good teams. People have said if you go 500 on the road and play well at home, you're going to be a good team. And I think that has to be the Sabres' objective. They have got to play well in front of their home fans. The last few years, that's been kind of one of the bugaboos of this Sabres team, is that they haven't played well at home. So that obviously has to change. You look at the makeup of this team. I mean, the top line, Peterka, Thompson, and Tuch, they've looked good. They've looked really good. Dylan Cousins, I thought, had his best game of the season last night easily. Cousins has not looked good so far this year. I thought he looked a lot more confident. I felt bad for him. He missed 2 empty netters last night. I felt terrible, but I think that he's maybe starting to find his own game. Jack Quinn is one of my absolute favorite Sabres players. Jack Quinn is not right. I don't know if there's maybe something from his injury last year that hasn't fully healed or something, but Quinn just looks lost out there. He's not confident with the puck. He's making really bad decisions. It seems like he can't receive a pass at all. Like every time somebody passes to him, it bounces off his stick or something like that. So they've got to get Jack Quinn right. Some people have suggested, sitting Jack Quinn for a couple of games just to get his mind right. You have to be a little bit careful with that because you have to remember that Quinn is still a younger player and he needs to be able to learn. And not to mention, Quinn showed last year how good he can be. He's a good player, but the last few games, really the entire season, that hasn't been the case. Quinn has not looked very good at all. So I think that you have to evaluate what you have with Quinn. For the rest of the team, goaltending, I think, has been good. Like, Luukkonen's been good. in the games that he's played, he's been pretty solid. Levi, you want to get his numbers a little bit better. He's got a 3.79 goals against average and an 874 save percentage. You got to remember that's a very small sample size. Devin Levi has only played in 3 games. But I would like to see the goaltenders. They've looked solid, maybe even a little bit more. Like, we saw a very strong outing from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen on Tuesday. But even more of that, string those sorts of games together. I think this is a team that really from the top on down, this organization has to sort of learn how to win hockey games. And that sounds kind of, stupid, but you do. You have to learn how to win games. And I think that the Sabres are a team that they're sort of building towards that. The last few games, they've looked better. Now it's just, okay, we've got to go into every game. We got to play smart. We got to outwork our opponents. And this is a team that I think has the talent, potentially, to string together some wins. I say potentially because it has to, the players have to be disciplined. They have to come to the games ready to play. You can't have games where you get blown out by the Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean, you just can't. I've said that, your goal should be, because sometimes you can't control whether you win or lose. Your goal should be to outwork the other team every single night. Nobody should want it more than you. And there may be some nights where you don't have it. You're shooting, but the other goaltender's playing really well, or you just are struggling to get things on net. That's where your hard work can bail you out. Okay, maybe a game that you would have lost 4-2, maybe you can make it 3-3 instead, and maybe you go to overtime. And you still lose in overtime, okay, or a shootout, that's fine. You still get a point. And those points come in handy towards the end of the season when you're trying to make the playoffs and you're 2-3 points out of the wild card picture, which last I checked, the Sabres are actually in a wild card spot right now. They are after last night, but it's very early. We're only 8 games into an 82-game season, so there's an awful lot of hockey left to be played, and the Sabres have an awful lot left to prove so far coming up this season. So we're going to take a short break and then finish out the show talking about the Bills' win over the Tennessee Titans on Sunday, as well as previewing next week's matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. So thanks for tuning in this afternoon to Big Blue Sports Podcast here on WCVF 88.9, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
Batman? What is this?
Don't worry, Robin. You're listening to WCVF 88.9, the campus and community voice for heroes.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports Podcast. Well, it was Victory Monday for the Bills as Buffalo took down the Tennessee Titans 34-10 on Sunday. Now, back-to-back wins, the Bills move to 5-2. We'll recap last week's NFL scores. And again, you can get a full comprehensive recap of the NFL scores tomorrow night as I am on Sports Hour for WNYF. We start at 8:30. We'll talk NFL and a few other sports as well, talk Sabres as well. So last week's games, the Thursday night game, the Denver Broncos beat the New Orleans Saints 33-10 as Sean Payton returns to the Bayou and gets the win. Broncos are over 400, sitting at 4-3. The Saints, after a 2-0 start, have dropped to 2-5. On Sunday morning in London, Tank Bigsby, former Auburn Tiger, big fan of his, takes down Drake May and the Patriots. Bigsby runs for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns on 26 carries as the Jags beat the Patriots 32-16. Jacksonville is 2-5 after an 0-5 start. The Patriots drop to 1-6. In Atlanta, the Bills' next opponent, the Seattle Seahawks, take down the Falcons in dominant fashion 34-14. The Seahawks defense stifling Atlanta's offense. Both teams now sitting at 4-3. Seahawks snap a 3-game losing skid as well. An AFC North battle in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson suffers a season-ending Achilles injury as the Browns fall 21-14 to the Bengals at home. The Bengals have won 3 straight following an 0-4 start, and the Browns drop to 1-6, and they're 0-3 at home this year. A last-minute field goal by a last-minute addition. Brandon McManus, in his first game kicking for the Green Bay Packers, delivers the win for Green Bay. They take down the Texans on a last-second field goal, 24-22. Packers improve to 5-2. Texans drop to 5-2. The Dolphins, in what could be their last game without Tua before he returns, fall to the Colts in Indianapolis 16-10 and Anthony Richardson's return. The Colts improve to 4-3 on the season. The Dolphins drop to 2-4. A thrilling game up in Minnesota as the Vikings suffer their first loss of the season. A late field goal for the Lions propels them over the top. Detroit wins it 31-29. Both teams now sitting at 5-1. A blowout at the Meadowlands as Saquon Barkley runs for 176 and a touchdown against his former team. The Eagles dominate the Giants 28-3. Eagles are 4-2 on the season. The Giants 2-5 and 0-4 at home. A battle of 2 former Los Angeles teams, and I guess one current one, is the Rams hosted the Raiders. The Rams defense forcing 4 turnovers. Raiders quarterback Aiden O'Connell left the game with a hand injury. The Rams win it 20-15. Rams improved to 2-4 on the season. Raiders dropped to 2-5. A dominant performance for the Washington Commanders, but they do lose their rookie sensation quarterback Jaden Daniels as the Commanders trounce the Carolina Panthers 40-7. Washington improves to 5-2. Carolina drops to 1-6, and they will be starting Bryce Young next week as Panthers quarterback Andy Dalton has suffered a not life-threatening or anything like that, but did suffer an injury in a car crash. He will not play on Sunday. Bryce Young will get the start. The latest game on Sunday, the Kansas City Chiefs going into San Francisco and beating the 49ers 28-18 in a Super Bowl rematch. Brock Purdy picked off 3 times in this game. The Chiefs are 6-0, yet they haven't looked all that impressive in, honestly, nearly any of their 6 wins. The 49ers dropping to 3-4, and they continue to struggle on this season. The Sunday night game, Russell Wilson makes his Steelers debut, and he throws 2 touchdown passes as Pittsburgh trounces the New York Jets 37-15 in Devontae Adams' Jets debut. The Steelers improved to 5-2 on the season, and the Jets dropped to 2-5. A doubleheader on Monday night, a thriller in the first game. The Baltimore Ravens go into Tampa and come back from a 10-0 first quarter deficit to beat the Bucs 41-31. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry over 500 yards of total offense. Baker Mayfield did have an impressive game, though, 370 yards and 3 touchdowns. Derrick Henry ran for 169 yards. The Ravens improved to 5-2 and looked like the class of the AFC. The Bucs dropped to 4-3, and Tampa Bay did lose both of their top 2 receivers. Mike Evans left earlier in the game, and it was confirmed that he will not be back until after the team's Week 11 bye. And Chris Godwin on Tampa Bay's final drive suffered a gruesome ankle injury, supposedly just a dislocation, supposedly good to go shortly. And the Arizona Cardinals take down the Chargers 17-15 on a walk-off field goal, despite the fact that Justin Herbert threw for 349 yards. The Cardinals are 3-4, Chargers 3-3. So the Bills against the Tennessee Titans, the game started very slow in Amari Cooper's Bills debut. Just a field goal for the Titans in the first quarter as the Bills go 3-and-out on their first 3 drives. The Titans on their first drive of the second quarter with backup quarterback Mason Rudolph. May remember him from playing for the Steelers last year. Mason Rudolph leads the Titans on an 8-play, 75-yard drive. It capped off by a 4-yard touchdown pass to Nick Westbrook-Akine. The Titans are up 10-0 and not super impressive, but then Brandon Codrington, the Bills' trade acquisition as a kick returner, gets an excellent return. The Bills cover 61 yards in just 3 plays, capped off by an 11-yard touchdown run by James Cook. The Bills trail 10-7 at halftime, and fans not exactly pleased. The Bills come out, though, firing in the opening drive of the third quarter. Buffalo comes down the field, and Amari Cooper catches a 12-yard touchdown pass, his first touchdown as a Bill, as Buffalo takes a 14-10 lead. Later in the quarter, Tyler Bass would kick a 28-yard field goal. Bills up 17-10 at the end of the third quarter. And then in the fourth, it was all Buffalo. On the first play of the fourth quarter, Josh Allen, a 4-yard touchdown pass to Ty Johnson, 24-10 Bills. On their next drive, 10 plays, 59 yards. Should have probably been a Keon Coleman touchdown catch. However, the officials ruled that Coleman did not maintain possession as his foot went out of bounds. I disagree. The ball moved, but I think that he still had possession of it. Ultimately, Tyler Bass kicking a 30-yard field goal to put the Bills up 27-10. And then Buffalo comes down the field, 5 plays, 84 yards, a 16-yard touchdown run by the rookie Ray Davis, and the Bills beat the Tennessee Titans 34-10. The Bills are 5-2 on the season and 3-0 at home. The Titans dropping to 1-5. In the AFC East, the Bills have a commanding lead as they're 5-2, the Dolphins 2-4, Jets 2-5, and Patriots 1-6. Buffalo, of course, is on the road on Sunday. They will be taking on the Seattle Seahawks in a 4:05 kickoff. And the main outlook for this game, Buffalo has a huge opportunity to really put some distance between themselves and the rest of the AFC East. I mean, Amari Cooper looked strong after an opening drive drop in his Bills debut, and we'll see if that continues. But for the rest of this Bills team, the defense, Terrell Bernard was injured. He looks like he'll be okay. DK Metcalf for the Seahawks, I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. I'm assuming no. That could change, but I would think that DK Metcalf is not going to be playing against the Bills on Sunday. I mean, you got to think. So the Dolphins, the rest of your AFC East competition for next week, the Dolphins are at home against the Arizona Cardinals, and the Jets and Patriots play each other. So here's the hypothetical, right? And I don't think the Jets lose to the Patriots. I'll make my picks. I'll make my picks in just a second. But I don't see the Jets losing to the Patriots. If the Dolphins lose to the Cardinals and the Bills beat the Seahawks, you're talking Buffalo 6-2, Miami's 2-5, and the Bills and Dolphins play each other on November 3rd. Buffalo wins 2 in a row, Miami loses 2 in a row. Now things get dicey for a Dolphins team that has a very tough schedule at the end of their season. Real quick rapid-fire picks for the rest of the week. Thursday Night Football, Vikings at Rams. I think the Vikings get back on track and take the win. 1 o'clock games, Eagles at Bengals. I think the Eagles go into Cincinnati and get the win. Bengals haven't quite looked like themselves this year. Ravens at Browns. Baltimore should win this game in a blowout. Jameis Winston's going to start for the Browns. Titans at Lions. Again, Detroit should win this game. They're an 11-point favorite. They should win it fairly handedly. Cardinals at Dolphins. The Dolphins up in the air whether or not they'll have Tua. If Tua plays, Dolphins win. If Tua doesn't play, Cardinals win. Jets at Patriots. I'm going to go with the Jets to win that one. Falcons at Bucks. I think Tampa wins a close one. Packers at Jags. I'm going to go with Green Bay to go in and get the win. Colts at Texans. We'll go with the Texans. 4:05 Saints at Chargers. We'll go with the Chargers. We'll save the Bills for last. Panthers at Broncos, the Super Bowl 50 rematch. We're going to go with Denver. Chiefs at Raiders. The Raiders usually get them, but I'm going to say the Chiefs go to 7-0. Bears at Commanders. Well, Chicago wins it as the Commanders are without Jaden Daniels. Sunday Night Football, Cowboys at 49ers. We'll go with the Cowboys to win that one. Giants at Steelers. We'll pick Pittsburgh. Bills at Seahawks. I got to go with the Bills to go to 6-2 on the season and really sort of create some separation between themselves and the rest of the AFC East. It'll be a very interesting battle as, again, the Bills return home on Sunday, November 3rd to host the Miami Dolphins. So with that, that'll do it for today's episode of Big Blue Sports Podcast. All Things Considered, presented by NPR, is next. We'll see you next week.